Welcome to the Operation Game Night podcast, episode 36. Today, it's just the two of us. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Clayton Gable. How you doing, Clay?
It's good to be back in this intimate setting with you. I was experiencing a lot of FOMO when I watched back you and Jared's two-person episode, and I was like, I need some one-on-one Travis time here soon.
That's right.
It's good to be back.
Excellent. Yeah, today we are talking best at X player games. X, not the Roman numeral, but X being the variable representing 1 through 8 players. So we're going to go through 1 to 8 players and list off some games that we think are great at those player counts. But first, we are going to debrief our week, and then we're going to go over the fence and talk about what we've been doing outside of board gaming. So, Clayton, tell me what you've been playing this week.
Yeah, first, part of my debrief here, I just want to get your opinion on a game night I had last night because I'm pretty fired up about it. So my freshman year roommate at the academy, I don't know if you remember him, Fergie. He was yeah. So he was my freshman year roommate. Did basic training together, all that. He's been out in Colorado Springs, and we just haven't sunk up at all. He's been out here for a year. He's like, dude, we gotta get a game night in before you leave. And so he just got engaged. We've only met his fiance one time, and he came over last night. And before he came over, I was like, what type of games do you guys looking to play? And he said, curate me a sampling of 30-minute games.
Ooh.
And so I was like, oh, heck yeah, we can do that. So I want your opinion on what I landed on and what we played. And I'll tell you how it went. So the first game we played, I had this one set up ahead of time because it required the most setup, which still isn't a lot, but it was Barron Park.
Okay.
Then we moved into For Sale, obviously. And following that, we played River Valley Glassworks.
Okay, great.
Then Coloretto.
Also great.
Yeah. And then finished things off with a game of Mountain Goats.
Ooh.
So 5 30-minute game samplings. I tried to hit some different genres with the auctioning and For Sale. We had some dice rolling for Mountain Goats, some tile placement in Barron Park, a little card game with Coloretto. So what do you, and River Valley Glassworks is like a, collecting things type game.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give them a good sampling of some 30-minute games that would be good for any collection. How do you think I did?
That's pretty good. Colorado is more trick taking, correct?
No, it's where there's those hops in the middle of the table.
Oh, yeah.
You're you either take a hop for yourself or you play a card to one of them.
That's
and you're
right.
trying to collect different colored chameleons.
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Yeah,
I think that's the only genre that I think that you really enjoy that you're missing was trick taking.
I know. I had a couple at the ready in case we went into 6 different games, but no trick taking last night.
Yeah, that's a good lineup though, and I think that's a pretty fun challenge. Put together a game night for me with these parameters. I think that's awesome. That's what we're out here at Operation Game Night.
Yeah, maybe that should be our thing. Let's just have people tell us about the game night they want to host, and we, as Operation Game Night, tell them how to curate the perfect game night.
I like that. So if you're listening to this podcast and you want to host a game night and you are needing to know what games to play, go ahead and hit us up on Instagram or write to us in the comments on this post, on this YouTube, on this podcast, and tell us what type of game night you want to have. And we can maybe cover that on our next episode. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, because I don't want to brag, but I think it went over really well. They seemed to have a really good time. They were receptive, quick learners of all the games. Favorite games from the night, I asked Fergie. His favorite was Barron Park.
Okay.
And Brianna's was River Valley Glassworks. And that was also the first time Mary had played River Valley Glassworks, and she really liked that game.
Really?
It is a super quick game. Now we're playing it on Board Game Arena, so, might want to hop on there and give it a try because it's a fun one.
Heck yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. All right. So that was my aside debrief.
Okay.
And I have another tangent before I actually talk about a game. This happened this week, and this is the first time this has happened to me. I backed Merchant's Cove Master Craft 3 years ago. It has been my longest outstanding Kickstarter. I don't back a ton of Kickstarters, but a few weeks ago, I got an update on the Kickstarter saying that the games were in the fulfillment center, Quartermaster Logistics. They're ready to ship out. Get ready for your shipping notifications next week. Instead of the shipping notifications, I got this email basically saying, we're not sending you your game. They've shuttered their doors.
Wow.
They cite a lot of reasons in this little backer note, but it seems like maybe Simon said they were going to pay them for a bunch of stuff and never did. They cite the tariffs. Obviously, that's affecting the board game industry. But yeah, it's tough to know how to react to it because obviously you don't want to see a company have to go out of business like this and that tough decision. But also, it's kind of weird that my game exists and it's sitting somewhere in the United States and they're not going to ship it to me. And following the comments, people are fired up, There's some empathy out there, but there's a lot of people that I guess have been through this before, and companies will literally resell your games to make money. Yeah. Or Quartermaster Logistics might, they have these games that Final Frontier isn't going to pay to ship, even though we already paid for shipping. They're not going to pay to ship them. So Quartermaster Logistics could just take that inventory and resell it to other people.
Wow.
Which that doesn't rub me the right way. I hope there's some resolution here where they'll give us an option, at least Quartermaster Logistics, to pay for our shipping again and get the game, because I was excited about getting this one. I really like Merchant's Cove and I was excited about the new stuff. But again, it's, I read this. There's a lot of stuff in here. I feel bad for them as a company. I feel bad for the different backers, but I think this is going to be happening more and more in the coming months. I think I saw on another channel last week that Greater Than Games might be shutting down, which is Spirit Island. Can you imagine a company that's made a freaking evergreen like Spirit Island is going to have to shut their doors? It's crazy times.
I follow a lot of games that I don't actually end up backing, but I follow them or save them just so I can kind of see the updates and get those notifications. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really annoying, but so many companies are putting out notifications now about here's how tariffs are impacting you. And I've found a lot of them are going out and asking their backers for more money, which is crazy. It has happened before, much to the board game community's chagrin, that these companies will go out and say, hey, we thought it was going to cost you this much to ship, but we need a little bit more money, or, production isn't going as smoothly as we want. We need more money. And that's never received well. But the fact that it's happening so widely across the board, I'm really curious to know how this shakes up the industry. If these tariffs stick around for a long time and there's so much uncertainty with the shipping and the logistics, what does this do to the board game industry at large over the long term? If this happens for the next 4 years, do people go away from Kickstarter eventually? Do they just go straight to retail? Do you see more smaller companies trying to sign those contracts with the big box stores like Target and Walmart and all those big, those types of companies? It's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out and what that does to the, not only production and the shipping and the logistics, but to the designs themselves. Do we go more towards small box? Do we go more towards mass produced commercial type stuff? It's going to be really interesting. Or do they completely redo their entire supply line and start producing somewhere else? It's going to be really interesting. I'm curious to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of talk from different content creators and publishers on the matter, and it seems like all in all it's going to be bad. I think a lot more companies are going to go out of business. We talked about this when we talked about the hate for Stonemaier for publishing FinSpan, as if these publishers are just rolling in money. Obviously they're not. Board game, it takes up a lot of our bandwidth, and we think it's like this big thing, but it's really, these companies aren't making tons of money, and any small hiccup along the road can be a deal breaker for a lot of these companies. So there's a way you can keep supporting, your favorite publisher or your favorite local game store. I think it's going to be tough times ahead until, this tariff situation dies down. So, just buckle up, get ready to either pay a lot more for board games or dive into your shelf of opportunity, if you will.
Yeah. Perfect opportunity to clear out that shelf of opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. Good topic, Clay. That's going to be super interesting to see.
Yeah. On a lighter note, got to play Godfather, Corleone's Empire on
I've heard
Friday
great
night.
things about this one.
Yeah. So this is when this come out in 2017, designed by Eric Lang of critical esteem, and put out by the aforementioned CMON. They might be on the naughty list, it sounds like, after reading that Final Frontier note. But regardless, CMON puts out a nice production. This game's awesome looking. It's got a map of New York City divided up into all these turfs. You have these different families, so each player has their family, and you have all these minis of your family members and your thugs. And so nice production. It comes with these metal suitcases that you use to stash your money in. Great to look at, as always, with CMON. But the gameplay was what really interested me because it's very streamlined. I kept rewatching videos and rereading the rule book. I'm like, there has to be more to this, because at the end of the day, it's really just a worker placement game. Yeah. So there's all these businesses in this map of New York City. And on your turn, two of the main actions you can do are you either send one of your thugs out to shake down the front of a business. So each business has a front and a back. And you send a thug out, it has a square bottom. So it goes in the front because the front has a square space for your thug. Can't mess it up. You send your thug out, shakes down the front of the business. You get like an illegal good card. Like maybe I get a gun, or you get money or whatever. Then there's circle spaces, and those kind of intersect different turfs. And those are where you can send your family members. You have less family members to start than thugs, but when you send a family member out, it shakes down the back of all the businesses that are adjacent to it. So you can get some big time benefits when you send your family member out. But again, it's pretty straightforward what you're doing there. So those are the two main actions: send a thug or family member. Also on your turn, why are you collecting these illegal goods? Is to complete jobs for the Godfather. All right, so you have these job cards that say like, you need 3 guns to complete this job. Then you get some amount of money and some benefit where you can like gun down someone else's figure and put them in the Hudson River. And, that'll free up space for you to maybe take an action they were blocking. So you got putting your people out, completing jobs, and then, play an ally card. So you can also get these allies that you can use later in the game, and they give you different benefits. They either get you money or, let you take another action with them, but pretty simple stuff. So, you're generally doing this, and then at the end, everybody's taking all their actions. You look at who has controlled each turf. So if you have the most figures in a turf, you get to place a control marker there. And then in future rounds, anytime someone shakes down the front of a business in your turf, you also get the benefit. So it's like an area control aspect there. And then the part that I thought was the most interesting about this game was like all the cards, your allies, your money, your job cards, they all have the same back, and they all take up your hand in your illegal goods. So you have money, jobs, illegal goods all in your hands. And, at the end of the round, you have to discard down to 5 cards. So you quickly, as you're doing things, are getting a pretty steep hand of cards, especially if you're getting money from completing jobs. And at the end of the round, you have to ditch those. So there's these spaces called, some of them called like the accounting office, where you get to stash money into your suitcase. And that's where you can keep it safe. So until you go to one of these actions where you can actually stow away some of the money you get in your suitcase, it's subject to be lost and it's not safe for the end of the game. So that was kind of like a fun balance of like, okay, I'm getting a ton of money, but I need to get to these spaces that let me actually stash it away so I can score it at the end of the game. And that's the basic flow of the game. At the end, there's also bonuses given for the person who controlled a certain turf the longest, and bonuses for, there's like 5 different job types, like blue, yellow, green, and gray. And if you completed the most jobs in a certain color, you get like $5 extra. So yeah, that's basically how the game plays. I want to hold out my judgment on it because like the first round, I was like, this is awesome. You know, it was really quick. It's played over 4 rounds. And the first round, you have like 2 thugs and a family member.
Yeah.
And it went really quick. And I was like, wow, this game's going to be like over in like 45 minutes. But then it really started to drag towards the end because you get more family members and you're able to do more things. And at 4 players, I found myself till the end of the 4th round. It was taking, I mean, it wasn't like over long, but we were coming up on like 2 hours. And I was just like, I was kind of getting bored with the core gameplay a little bit.
Okay.
So I don't know. I want to play it again and see how it is, but there's definitely some cool stuff going on here, and it's super like streamlined, easy to teach, action wise, and obviously a great production. So I'm keen to give it another go.
How was it received from the rest of the group that you played with?
The rest of the group really liked it. Carlin was the one who made me watch The Godfather not that long ago. And so when I saw this game and got it, we were like, we got to play this sometime soon. And we finally got to it. So everybody was pretty excited about it.
Do you think that it took so long to play through it because it was new, and like, were you constantly going back to the rule book, or was it just like because you had so many actions to do per turn, that's what really made the game drag towards the tail end?
Yeah, I think you just ended up getting so many of these, you know, figures, and when you complete jobs, it gives you like new ways to take actions, and people's, you know, what was like a round was like me taking 3 worker placement spots in the first round ended up being like, you know, a round ended up towards the end of the game, you're taking like 5 worker placement actions, but then you complete a job that lets you get one of your workers back, and then you can take more, and it just, you know, it kept going on. So it definitely wasn't a rules issue. I don't know that I opened up the rule book a single time during the game. Nice. Because yeah, it's streamlined for sure, and had some neat stuff. But yeah, it just seemed to really slow down towards the end.
Yeah, that seems cool. I've heard good things about this one. I like the thematics. I'm glad that they didn't like over bloat the rules with theme. Like they could have really injected a lot more theme into this, but you would constantly be going back and forth to the rule book, or like looking to see, you know, this person is in this family, or, you know, like, yeah, they could have definitely tried to over bloat this thing and make it way more complicated, but it's awesome to hear that it's so streamlined with just simple worker placement and hand management. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I really enjoy everything it was doing. It just seemed to drag those last like 2 rounds, which is why I want to play it again, so I can, you know, see if that was just everybody was excitable that night. You know, we had 8 people over here, and there was a table playing Lem next door. The kids were watching a movie, you know, so it was a little chaotic, which could have added to, you know, maybe just the overall things taking a little bit longer than they might have otherwise. Yeah. But yeah, no complaints about the mechanisms in here. I thought it all worked together really nicely. Just need to play it a couple more times. Yeah, that's cool. I love it. What you been playing, Travis? I've been playing a whole bunch of games on Board Game Arena. The first being Pixies, which you talked about a couple weeks ago. Yep. I did a tutorial, and I've been playing that a couple times. I like it. It's very simple. It's very streamlined. The scoring, I can see how it could be a huge pain in the butt if you're doing that in person. Yeah. To get people's like X's and little swirls and stuff like that. But yeah, on Board Game Arena, that's pretty seamless. Yep. I find that I feel like it's too much luck based almost. Like you're making the best decision for the moment with the 3 cards that you're dealt, or however many are left during that round for you to choose from. But I feel like it's so luck driven. It's all like whatever is left over for you or whatever you're dealt with those 3 cards right off the bat. So it's, I don't know. I like it, and I'll continue to play because it's like that's a great phone game for me to play on Board Game Arena.
It's really
but it's
nice
not
on BJ.
I don't know if it's something that I will like seek out and buy a physical copy of anytime soon. But the art is phenomenal. I do like that.
I will say, to your luck point, it definitely is lucky and it feels lucky, but there must be a way that you can have skill in this game, because I've played this game, 10 times with the various people. And if you look at my board game stats app, there's one person that's won every single one of those games but one, and it's Mary.
Wow.
So she's making some type of decisions at a percentage that I am not, because she consistently is winning at this game. So
interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she prioritizes. Like, I find myself very keen on getting those high number cards. Like if there's a 9, I'm going to take it. I don't know if she focuses on squiggles or what, or like forming big areas of the same color. I'll have to ask her, but she is constantly winning, and it makes me feel that there must be some decisions that she's making that are positive where I'm not.
Yeah, I'll have to fire up a game with you guys so I can see what she ends up doing. But I've also been playing a lot of Architects of Amatus. Still really enjoying that one. Excuse me. Really enjoying that one. But I really struggle to continue to draw the project cards. So typically there's only like one type of building that you can draft and put into your city that you're building that will allow you to draw more project cards. And that's where I get hung up every single time, is I feel like I'm behind the curve on project cards, where my opponent will be, they'll be completing 6, 8, 10 project cards in a round. And I've got like my first 3 that I started with. Maybe I'll get 1 additional. And I'm largely reliant on the individual building scoring. And I am still struggling to understand that one. I'm enjoying it. It's very simple and it's easy. And I think it's a great concept for a game like tic-tac-toe city building. But I am terrible at that game, and I need to figure out the actual strategy. But then the last one that I have been playing a whole lot has been Dracula versus Van Helsing. And this game is a 2-player only lane battler, where one player plays as Dracula, the other player plays as Van Helsing, and it's a round base kind of trick-taking style game where you are battling over these different districts within a city. One player plays as Dracula, one is Van Helsing. Dracula always goes first. And on your turn, what you're doing is you are either playing a card from your row that is assigned to a different district, or you're drawing from the draw pile and playing that card to the discard. And when you play a card to the discard, whether it's from your hand or from the draw pile, each card has an action associated with it and a suit. And so the suit is the color, basically, but the action that you're taking will allow you to do different things and manipulate the cards or the suits in general to gain an advantage in these different districts. So like on this picture here, the little like circle means that you get another turn. You basically go twice. The 1 means that you get to you have to reveal one of your cards to your opponent. The 4 is you are swapping 2 cards positions between the districts. The 3 is that you are revealing an opponent's card. And then the 8 is basically like a ship, I think. And that's like, that ends the round immediately. And so as you go, you're taking turns and you're manipulating the cards. The one that's missing from this is the trump suits, right? So there's 4 different suits associated with the different colors. One of the cards will allow you to swap 2 of the suits. So there's a trump, and then there's like a ranking of the other 3 suits. And you can swap these suits around so that you can manipulate which suit will be the trump that round, or which outranks the other. And once I think there's once there's 7 in the discard pile, you can declare the end of the round instead of taking your turn. And the other person will get one more chance to manipulate their cards, and then the round will end. Or you can discard an 8, which is the highest card value, and that will end the round immediately. And then you'll go through the districts left to right, and you'll score. And what Dracula is trying to do is he's trying to turn 4 villagers into vampires. So when Dracula wins one of the regions, he'll turn one of the villagers into, I don't know, the undead or whatever. And then if Van Helsing wins a region, he harms Dracula by 1 health value. And I think Dracula's got like maybe 12, 13 health overall. And so really it's just kind of this back and forth where you're doing, it's a lane battler, but you are manipulating these cards and choosing which cards to discard and play so that you can manipulate and set your hand up to win as many regions as possible. So I really enjoy this game. I think it's great. I think it's super streamlined. The components are super nice, even in the base game. It even has like the stands that it comes with, so you can put your cards on the different regions. And Dracula versus Van Helsing. I think I got this in the 25th Century Games reprint, if I'm not mistaken. I really enjoy this game. I think it's great.
Are those like actual cards? Because they kind of look like cardboardy.
Yeah, they are cardboardy.
Oh.
I say cards, but like in the actual game, they're like pretty thick little cardboard pieces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're like actual like kind of slates. So they're super nice. Yeah.
It looks like a small box too. How are they fitting all that in there?
Very tightly. Yeah. Like it's got one side that's reserved just for those like card holders, those like kind of tablet type things that you place your cards on, and then the board folds up nice and tight. And then all the cards go in one little area, all the chits go in another, and it's pretty compact and nice and small.
Did you mainly play it on Board Game Arena, or have you played it much in person?
I've played it a couple times in person. It's so simple. It's not like I'm reliant on any sort of function of Board Game Arena to do the scoring or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's so streamlined and easy. You can play it in person or on Board Game Arena with no confusion between the two. And I just like it because I can have a whole bunch of games going, and on each turn, it's not like I'm like over analyzing what is going on. I don't have to like come in with fresh eyes and like, oh, what did they do last turn? It's so simple to pick up, look at a situation, make the best decision for that turn, and then move on and do something else. So
yeah, those are the type of games I usually really like. I think you fired this up with me on Board Game Arena, and I was learning on the fly, and I probably didn't appreciate it like I would if I had actually taken the time to figure out how to play it, because it sounds like everything I would like in a game.
Yeah, I think it's super streamlined and it's super easy, simple. It's a great travel game. This one's going to stick around for a while because it's not going to take up any space, and it's something that you can pick up and play with another person so easily. You will hardly ever need a refresher on the rules. You just need to like figure out what the symbols mean that are associated with the cards, and then away you go. It's really easy. And then down at the bottom, you see that there's like a ship in the harbor. And so after each round, that little ship moves forward 1, and once it reaches the end, then the game is over. And if Dracula has not won, then Van Helsing automatically wins. So I don't know if I've ever completed all 4 rounds. I think it's always either Dracula wins or Van Helsing wins way ahead of that.
I like everything you're saying here. I think I got to get my mitts on a physical copy so I can actually internalize what's happening, because I just am not great at learning a game for the first time on Board Game Arena.
Yeah. Well, I'll fire this one up with you and we can talk through it.
Just to go back from last week, though, you spoke so highly of that Stone Spine or Spire.
Oh, yeah. Stone Spine Architects.
And you said you actually could learn the game from the tutorial and know what was going on. And so normally, you fire up a game I don't know, I just start taking turns and hoping by some miracle things click in my brain. But I was like, you know what, Travis spoke highly of this tutorial. I'm going to give it a go. And sure enough, it was good. I feel like I know what I'm doing for the most part. I'm excited to keep playing that one.
Yeah, that one's fun. I'm excited to get to I don't think we're even through the first round yet. It's been like a week.
Yeah,
But
we're getting there.
yeah, like the market phase is really interesting in that one because it's all about like, do I forego the upgrades and go for the end goal or the end game scoring cards, or do I like really take the time and upgrade in hopes that those end game scoring cards will be in my favor later? So yeah, looking forward to finishing that one too.
Yep. Hey,
Awesome.
we're humming. Without Jared here to distract us, we're like a finely tuned machine.
That's right. We are cruising.
Not quite as exciting, but
yeah, that's okay. We miss you, Jared.
Yeah, just a little
Let's go. Let's move on to the mission objective, which is best at different player counts. So we're going to talk through different games that are best at 1 through 8 players. We're going to go player count by player count all the way through. We'll talk about some good options, things that we considered, and yeah, we're going to make some recommendations based on player counts. So, Clay, how'd you go about making your decisions for this?
Yeah, this is like one of the things that keeps me up at night is player count. I love, games generally say they can play at a wide variety of player counts, but we all know that there's a sweet spot for most games. And, knowing your audience and knowing how many people are playing a game, it really makes a difference on what game you decide to pick. And here at Operation Game Night, that's something we like to really excel at. And so I think most games like are tailored for like 4 players.
Yeah.
And then, 3 players is always just almost usually a better version, a quicker version of a 4-player game. And so those are like the easiest player counts to kind of operate at. But, once you get outside of that 3-4 wheelhouse, you have to start making some trade-offs and, finding the right fit for that player count. So yeah, I just, I went through each and I was like, you know what, if I was playing a game at this player count, what would be my go-to game to recommend that I know is going to be good because it's at this player count? Not just it can play at this player count, but it is good specifically because it's at this player count.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. I found myself struggling with the like 3 to 5 player count more so than I did at the lower number or higher numbers. There's so many great games that are made specifically for 1 person or 2 people, or the big party games. There's so many to choose from, but that middle range is so hard. Like, how do you tailor mechanics versus the amount of players versus the time it's going to take to learn and play the game? So yeah, I'm curious to hear what you came up with.
Yeah. So Travis, what was as a solo man, what was your 1 player recommendation?
Man, so this one, there's a lot of games that have solo modes that I really enjoy. And typically when you go on, there's like actually a subreddit specifically for solo board gaming. And they will always recommend things like Spirit Island. Okay. I don't think that that's probably going to be my recommendation. But for solo player only, you will always see people recommend Warp's Edge. And Warp's Edge is like, who were we talking to? Maybe it was Vic that was talking about this one, or maybe it was Bo.
Yeah.
But Warp's Edge is always recommended. It's super thematic. You're flying a ship around. You're making decisions. You're attacking other ships. This is a 1-player only kind of space battling game that's always really, really fun. Another one that I was going to recommend is going to be Under Falling Skies. And that one I have more experience with. And that one is also very popular. Basically, it's, the aliens are dropping down from these different tracks. You are rolling dice and then assigning them to different spaces within your base underneath the Earth's surface to generate power and to attack these bugs and to keep the alien incursion at bay. It has tough choices to make every time. It's always fun. There's a bunch of different cities that you can play as that have different decisions to make. And at Essen, they had a giant version of it, like a huge blown up version that was really cool. I have a picture of it.
Nice.
That was cool to see. So I'm going to recommend Warp's Edge and Under Falling Skies for my solo only game.
Well, Thank you for those thoughtful recommendations, Travis, because one player is easily my least visited player count. But I think I mentioned it last week, and there is one solo game that stands out for me that I really enjoyed, and that was My City Roll and Build, which is the roll and write version of My City by Reiner Knizia. And I just love this game. I loved My City, and for the roll and build, it was so simple to play by yourself. It's in a tiny box, and you just get out 2 dice, and you have a sheet of paper, and you roll like 8 times, and you've done a game. You decide where you're going to draw your little polyominoes, and then the next game has a slightly different rule, and so it just keeps you engaged throughout the course of the 24 different games you play. But I thought it was a really fun solo experience that took no time to set up and almost no time to play. So it was a fun way to just like fill in the gaps of in day, hey, don't got anything going on, let me bust out a quick episode of My City Roll and Build.
So you are not, it's a roll and write, correct? You're not like placing stickers on a board permanently?
Nope. But as like the sheets of paper that you write on evolve throughout.
Oh, okay.
So it's got like this pad of paper, and like the first few episodes, have a different feel to them. And as you go through it, they add some things to the sheets of paper. So yeah, they did it in a neat way that still kind of makes you feel the legacy vibe of My City, which was kind of a lighter legacy experience to begin with. But that's my solo recommendation.
Nice. Give me your 2-player.
2-player. So we talk about a lot of 2-player games, at least I do, because I play 2-player a lot. So I wanted to go with a lighter recommendation. And again, hitting my guy, Reiner Knizia, but not Lost Cities, because that already gets too much airtime. Schotten Totten, or Battle Line, is another great 2-player card battling game. But in Schotten Totten and Battle Line, you're kind of making these poker type hands where you're like competing for these different stones. And on your turn, you have to play a card to one of the stones, and you're hoping to make like 3 of a kind or a run. And whoever has the higher ranked side of that stone gets that stone. And you're just competing to win like the majority of the stones throughout the game. And it has the same tension as Lost Cities, where you're just drawing a card and playing a card. And sometimes you don't want to play a card because you don't want to, commit to trying to, go for the 3 8s on this stone, because you don't know if you're going to get another 8, and they might end up, getting it with something like a 1 2 3. And I just really like that twist of those like kind of poker type hands in there, trying to compete for those stones. And then for the heavier fare of a 2-player game, I got to go with, it's kind of new still, not quite as hot as it was a few months ago, but Ironwood from Mind Clash is just a great asymmetric 2-player. You're in each other's heads trying to win in like an hour, card driven area control. Awesome game.
Yeah, good recommendations. There are so many like much heavier 2-player games too that I would love to get played more, but that's just not the reality around here anymore.
Yeah.
It's all like very light and quick 2-player games. We're kind of digging through our games to travel with us. And the first recommendation from Rachel was Jaipur. Yeah. We love Jaipur. We play Jaipur and Splendor at 2 players all the time. Jaipur specifically 2 players. Splendor, plays up to 4. So Jaipur, you're collecting and trading your different wares to collect coins, then trade in for in-game scoring. It's pretty simple. It's super easy. But I think I would want to recommend, there's so many like good 2-player games. And this year specifically was like just the year of the 2-player like dual versions. There's Ironwood. There's Kelp Shark versus Octopus. There was Everdell Duo. There was King of Tokyo Duel. It's just so many 2-player games came out this year. What's that other one? I always forget the name. like literally every week I say that I'm going to talk about this game and it falls out of my head the moment I go to talk about it. Dwarf Romantic Duel. There's like
Azul Duel.
Azul Duel. Yeah, like this was the year of two players. There's no shortage of great two-player games.
Yeah.
This year, my highlights were Kelp Shark versus Octopus. I wish that I had gotten more games of Ironwood played. And then we've really been enjoying Wild Duo by Mark Durr. 5 games in one box. They're all super easy to learn. Really enjoying those ones.
And just a shout out to the games that we've never played but are desperate to. I mean, you can't ignore that at 2 players there are 3 super thematic games that are on my bucket list. One is sitting right up there, Star Wars Rebellion, dying to play that. Another, War of the Ring, and then Doom War for Arrakis.
Oh yeah,
those are 3 mega 2-player games that deserve a shout out. Never played them, but want to.
yeah. I mean, the one that kills me is the War of the Ring too. It's just like it sits there and it glares at me on my shelf every day, and I want to play it so bad. So we need to like devote some time, like devote a weekend and just play it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, 3 players. 3 players. I really struggle with this one too because this is like there's so many great 2-player games that play well at 2 players that then like you add a third person and they get better. And where I landed on this one is actually came from a bad experience with a game played at 2 players. So I played Small World once upon a time with 2 players, and we ended up in this situation where like on the 2-player map, there's this like really thin area that goes beneath this lake in the core box. And we just like we ended up in this situation where like if one player did not attack the other, you had this proclaimed truce and it just didn't work. And like the game broke and we just couldn't like fight each other and couldn't make any progress. And we just ended up kind of scrapping the game. 3-player Small World is so good. I love Small World at 3 players. I think the map is good for it. I think the interactions are great. I think you have enough space to maneuver and feel like you're making progress with this without like resetting the map every time. And there's tough decisions to make. You can get a lot of different factions out there on the board. And I'm going to go with Small World at 3 players.
Okay. That's a good one. Yeah. At 3 players, yeah, like we said up front, 3 and 4 was tough because a lot of games play well at 3 and 4 players. So for a 3-player game that I thought, you know what, 3 players is probably the sweet spot. And this is kind of weird because I've never played this game at 3 players, but I played it at 2 and it was way too hard with 2 players. And I played it with 4 and it made it kind of long, and it didn't feel like you were taking your turns very often because they're longer, more involved turns. And that's Cthulhu Death May Die.
Ooh, so good one.
I played with you, Travis, at 2, and it felt overwhelming. Like we just did not have enough going on for us to even sniff at winning. And then I played it at 4 players, and it felt like, hey, like it's my turn only a quarter of the time, and these turns are pretty long, and people have a lot of different actions to consider, and you're trying to work together. So how I hate trying to cooperate with people. But if I am going to cooperate with people, I want it to be less people. So I think at 3 players, Cthulhu Death May Die would present the right amount of cooperativity, and challenge to have a good time with it.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Hit me with your 4-player.
Okay, so 4-player, again, tough player count. Most games are, I feel like, designed with 4 players in mind as the ideal player count. But when I think of games that I feel like I can only play at 4 players, even though this isn't true anymore, the hobbies become very accepting of divergent player counts for trick-taking games. But a proper trick-taking game is usually played with 4 players. So if
Okay.
I have 4 people together, I am reaching for the Crew, or now the Lord of the Rings, the trick-taking game.
Nice.
Because although you can play it 3, 2, 4, 5, those games were made with 4 people in mind, and it just works so much cleaner with 4 people. And those type of games are what I'm looking for. Another one on trick taking that's a little lighter, but Ahoy is a game I thought of that is best at 4 players because at 4 players you get 2 people that are smugglers, and they're kind of competing with each other to deliver goods to the different islands. And then you have the Blackfin squad and the Bluefish, whatever, and they're out there fighting for control of the different areas. So I think that game was obviously designed for 4 players to work best. You can play it with, 3 players, and then you just only have 1 smuggler. But I think you're missing out on the desired gameplay if you have less than 4. So Ahoy is my other shout out for a 4-player tailored game.
Nice, good one. The ones that came to mind immediately were like Root, Western Legends, Wonderland's War, all the hits that we've talked about forever. But while you were talking, War of the Ring, the card game, came to mind because it's meant to be played with 4 players, where you have 2 that are, the alliance, they're the good guys, and 2 that are the bad guys, and you're taking turns playing cards these different areas.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be played at 4. And you actually have to adjust the rules for 2, and for the solo mode, there's an expansion. So that game is awesome. It's super thematic. It's a great way to experience those types of thematic battles over these different regions in card format. And I really want to get that played more. I got the, sword and fire and axe, or whatever it is that allows you to play solo. And I really want to get that played while we travel. I think I actually kept that one out, and it's going to maybe go unaccompanied baggage. So I got about a month to play it before it hits the road. So I'm going to go with War of the Ring, the card game.
Sweet. What about for 5 players, Travis?
Man, this is probably the hardest one for me, is 5 players, because at 5 you now have like an odd man out. The games are going to take a little bit longer. The games are no longer tailored for that player count most of the time, unless you start this is like the weird in between like the traditional tabletop game, board game, and like the party game, right? So my go-to for 5 players is going to be Betrayal at House on the Hill. I think you can add that 5th player in without adding too much time. You get to the haunts faster. It makes the haunt triggering a little more interesting, because you can't split up evenly like half and half. So it's got to be like 1 versus all. And some cool thematic moments can come out of 5-player game of Betrayal at House on the Hill, specifically 3rd edition. I really enjoyed that 3rd edition last time we played.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I would not have, I haven't enough experience with Betrayal House on the Hill to know what the ideal player counts are, but I was not expecting that.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
What you got?
So for me, if you're getting past 4 players, there better be a reason there's 5 people at the table other than to just slow things down. So I'm thinking of interactive games. Like the first one that came to my mind at 5 players, what do I want to play? Everybody's having a good time. It's Modern Art, because every turn, everybody's involved. You're auctioning off paintings. Everybody's, bidding their money. You're banging the gavel. And just the more players that are involved in that, and it goes up to 5, the better, I feel like. So Modern Art is the first one that comes to my mind when I'm like, I got 5 people. Let's play Modern Art. And then another one is Libertalia, Winds of Gale. Well, I mean, either Libertalia is fine, but that works well at 5 players because you're simultaneously selecting your card, and then you flip them over, and all the cards are interacting with each other when they get to the island. So it doesn't add a lot of time for 5 players, and it adds a lot more chaos and fun about what happens when you reveal those cards. So I think that's another great choice at 5 players.
Nice.
Yep.
What you got for 6?
At 6, the ideal player count, and this is a big one. This is the real deal here. But the ideal player count for Battlestar Galactica is 6 players. So if I get 6 players that are down to clown and really want to, dig into a long, deep game of intrigue and calling each other out, Battlestar Galactica. That's obviously a very specific group of a 6-player game. So I do have a backup here, and that is Downforce. Love that racing game. Well, it's more of a betting game. But yeah, that's a ton of fun at 6 players. Everybody's got their different cars, and you play a card from your hand and it moves cars. It doesn't have to be your car. So yeah, it's a lot of fun because every time somebody plays, you never know what they're moving, and it all affects you and what you might bet on when you get to the betting spots on the board. And it's just a fun, quicker game you can play with 6 players that has everybody engaged and having a good time.
Yeah, that's great. Funny you mentioned Downforce. I was going to say Heat, Pedal to the Metal.
Yeah.
Because that game just plays so quickly and you can get a lot of players to the table. 6 is like the perfect amount too, because you're not like having to coach people up most of the time. Like people can just jump in, play at 6. The game is like the turns are crowded, but not like so overly crowded that like you're all trying to, I don't know, bump into each other. And I feel like any more than 6, it just gets a little like bloated, but yeah, Heat is just so streamlined and perfect at 6 players.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one.
7 is tough.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Like you're uneven, you're odd player count. Yeah. And you're at such a large, man. I don't know if this is your game, but I was going to say you brief Things and Rings. That sounds like a perfect game at 7. How many does that play up to?
6.
Oh man.
I don't know why you couldn't play it at 7, honestly, but there's really no reason you couldn't.
Well, especially because like there's one knower, right? There's one knower, and the other people other
people are just throwing things in the rings. It just says 6 on the box, so to respect the publisher.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have a great answer for 7, and 7 is not like the typical player count that I have ever seen. Like if you're gonna get a big group together, it's typically 8.
Yeah, I have.
I don't know.
I've got 2.
Okay, hit me.
7 Wonders.
7 Wonders, perfect.
Yeah, 7 Wonders plays at 7.
Perfect.
And it scales all the player counts well because you're all picking and passing at the same time.
Yeah.
So that would be one I would be keen to play, provided you had enough space on the table to play it. I think that would be great at 7. And No Thanks is another one that plays up to 7, and really enjoy that reverse auction game. And just like the more people there are to, stick their black sweaty chits on the card saying they don't want it, just add some more fun. So I always like getting No Thanks out when I have a higher player count. I probably played it at 7. I've played it a ton, but that's one that always comes to my mind in those upper post 6 player count.
Yeah. 2 great recommendations. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. You want to hit me with your number 8?
Let's go 8. And these 2 are fresh on my mind because the same night we played Godfather, before that, we had 8 people over, and I had to curate a couple games to get the party started. And the first one we played was Long Shot the Dice Game.
Nice.
Yep. And went great. Takes up not a ton of space. Everybody just has their one little dry erase board that they do their stuff on. And then you got your little racetrack in the center. And every turn, somebody rolls the die, and everybody then gets to take an action. So you're always involved. Everybody's engaged with the race. They're hooping and hollering because they want, Nitro Nelly to finally get going. And people are moving horses forward and backward and doing the concession stands. And yeah, the roll and write nature of it makes it doesn't even feel like a roll and I don't know if it's a roll and write. You definitely roll and write, but most roll and writes you think of, just heads down doing your own thing. But this one, you're very interested in what everybody else is doing with the horses. So it's a fun one. And if I can't think of anything else, 8 players that does what it does. And then on the party game side, just got people been talking about it. It's called Ito.
Oh,
Ito. Yeah. And we played that one after. And that's essentially, it plays from up to 10, I think. But it's like wavelength meets the mind, maybe. You give like a category, like popular TV shows, then you deal everybody a random number, and they go from 1 to 100. And then everybody like puts their number face down on their color card and gives a clue to try and help you assess where your number is in the line. So it's like popular TV shows. You say The Office, like people are probably going to think that's pretty high up towards like the 90s. And somebody else says like, NCIS. And then you just have these clues, and you're trying to arrange the cards then in the right numerical order based on the clues people give. And it was a ton of fun. We played it at 4 and it was like too easy. 8 might be too hard, but it was still fun at 8, and I would still play it because, it's just a good, quick game you can play a few rounds of that nobody takes too seriously. Definitely a party game, and it got the party started.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump on your horse racing trend, and I was going to say ready, set, bet for 8-player, because especially the way that we did it the last time we played at your house, where you like pull it up on the app on the screen, and you can watch the horses race while you're betting on a big table, and you don't have to like roll the dice in between and like slow that down. That is like the perfect way to play. It's like horse race betting in person. You get a big group together, they're cheering on their horse, like people go nuts for it. I love that. That's like, that is a way to get the party started for a big game night, is ready, set, bet. I love that.
Dang. We did it, Travis, I think.
We did it. 1 through 8 players. Excellent.
Now you know what to do, everybody. Don't ever say you don't know what game to play at a player count. If
you need us to procure or curate a game night for you based on your player count and tastes, hit us up and we will help make some recommendations for you.
Right here on the podcast.
Live and in person. We need a call-in number so that people can call in live.
Yep.
You want to go over the fence?
Let's hit it quick.
Let's do it quick. What have you been doing outside of board gaming?
Yeah, so, The Sopranos ending was tragic. Quickly blew through White Lotus season, whatever it is, 3.
3. Yeah.
That was fine. It's an interesting show. But now we started up on Righteous Gemstones season 4, and that show just blows me away. Like I don't know if I'm like just more in shock by like the banter and writing they put in there. They say some raunchy, ridiculous stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like it's been a hard pivot from The Sopranos to White Lotus, and now watching Righteous Gemstones. It's like, but it's good. It's entertaining. I'm smiling and laughing, and that's a good show. So that's what we've been watching, having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that show was great. Each season just gets more and more ridiculous, and it's so over the top, but I love it. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can tell because I am talking in an echo chamber, but all of our stuff moved out this week. So we're basically camping in our own house for the next month and a half before we move.
Good God.
Yeah. But Last of Us Season 2 started last week. Loving that. I am so stoked to see where the season goes. They made some interesting choices. Black Mirror Season 7 is on right now. That is never a feel-good show. It's like depressing and like just puts a pit in my stomach. But yeah, just kind of been hanging out, spending some good time with baby Gwen for her first Easter, and
nice.
Life is good.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad life's good. I'm glad we're over the fence. I'm glad that Jared was not here so I could spend quality time with you.
Me too.
You guys bragging about being civil engineers together. I'm just like the odd one out.
No. Well, what can we brag about that he isn't?
Combatives instructors.
There you go. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
so glad that we're combatives instructors and Jared isn't.
Yeah, he's
What a
loser.
nerd. What a nerd.
Yeah, just freaking schoolboy.
All right, did we do it?
Yeah.
All right. This has been episode 36 of the Operation Game Night podcast. I have been Travis. He has been Clay. And we are out.